In the darkest corner of history, power did not always arrive with honor or victory. It often arrived quietly, through fear, pressure, and unchecked control. Well-known names usually feel distant, reduced to dates and titles, yet the reality behind them was far closer and far darker. Decisions made in private rooms shaped public suffering on a massive scale. This story does not celebrate achievements or repeat familiar praise. It focuses on moments where authority crossed lines, where ambition ignored limits, and where actions set entire societies on paths they could never fully escape. So, let's take a look at them. Number 15. Vlad the Impaler. Vlad III ruled Wallachia during the 15th century, trapped between internal betrayal and the expanding Ottoman Empire. To maintain control, he relied on extreme punishment, most infamously impalement, which he used not only as execution, but as psychological warfare. Victims were displayed along roads and city entrances, creating landscapes of terror meant to discourage rebellion and invasion. Contemporary accounts describe entire forests of impaled bodies left as warnings. Vlad targeted enemies, criminals, corrupt nobles, and invading forces alike, believing fear was the most effective form of order. His cruelty earned him loyalty from some and hatred from others, but it succeeded in stabilizing his rule temporarily. Although later folklore transformed him into the vampire Dracula, the real Vlad required no myth. His legacy rests on deliberate state terror, calculated brutality, and a belief that survival demanded merciless control in a violent world. Number 14. Ivan the Terrible. Ivan IV became the first Tsar of Russia in 1547, initially showing promise as a reformer. Over time, paranoia and mistrust consumed him, reshaping his rule into one of terror. He created the Oprichnina, a personal domain enforced by a secret police who carried out arrests, torture, and mass executions. Entire cities, including Novgorod, were devastated under accusations of treason. Ivan believed betrayal surrounded him, especially among the nobility. His reign grew increasingly violent, marked by public punishments and arbitrary cruelty. The most infamous moment came when he struck his own son during an argument, killing the heir to his throne. This act symbolized how deeply fear had overtaken him. By the time of his death, Russia had been centralized through bloodshed, leaving behind a legacy of authoritarian rule built on suspicion, violence, and absolute power. Number 13. Elizabeth Bathory. Elizabeth Bathory was a powerful Hungarian noblewoman living between the late 16th and early 17th centuries. Reports began to surface of young servant girls disappearing after entering her household. Witness testimony later described severe abuse, torture, and murder carried out within her castles. Because of her noble status, Bathory was protected for years, while rumors spread quietly among the surrounding villages. Investigations eventually uncovered physical evidence and first-hand accounts from servants and accomplices. Estimates of her victims range widely, but dozens of deaths are confirmed through court records. Rather than being executed, she was imprisoned within her own castle, sealed inside rooms until her death. Legends later exaggerated her crimes, including stories of bathing in blood, though historians debate these claims. Regardless of myth, documented evidence confirms she exploited power and isolation to commit prolonged violence hidden behind privilege and silence. Number 12. Leopold II of Belgium. Leopold II never set foot in the Congo, yet ruled it as his personal property from 1885 to 1908. Under his control, Congolese people were forced into brutal labor quotas to extract rubber and ivory. Villages that failed to meet demands faced collective punishment, including mutilation, hostage-taking, and execution. Severed hands became proof of compliance. Millions died from violence, starvation, exhaustion, and disease. Leopold publicly denied the abuses, while presenting himself as a humanitarian in Europe. Profits from the Congo funded lavish projects in Belgium, built on unimaginable suffering overseas. International pressure eventually forced the Belgian government to take control, ending Leopold's private rule. Though responsibility was long deflected, historians now recognize his regime as one of the deadliest colonial systems in history, driven by greed, deception, and the complete dehumanization of an entire population. The next figure takes this darkness in a different direction. Number 11. Caligula. Caligula became Roman emperor at a young age and initially enjoyed public support. After a severe illness, his behavior changed dramatically. Ancient sources describe a reign filled with cruelty, humiliation, and unpredictable violence. Senators lived in constant fear, knowing favor could turn to execution without warning. Caligula reportedly forced elites to watch executions for his amusement and treated executions as entertainment. He openly mocked Roman traditions, declared himself divine, and used power to degrade those around him. Financial mismanagement and paranoia further destabilized the empire. While some ancient accounts may exaggerate his madness, there is little doubt that his rule created an atmosphere of terror. Ultimately, his own guards assassinated him, ending a reign that lasted less than 4 years. Caligula's story remains a warning of unchecked power combined with instability, narcissism, and cruelty at the highest level of authority. Number 10. Gilles de Rais. Battlefields once shaped Gilles de Rais into a celebrated commander during France's wars against England. Wealth, titles, and influence followed quickly, placing enormous freedom in private hands. Away from public view, that freedom turned dark. Children vanished after being taken into isolated estates, while servants were bribed or silenced. Over time, descriptions surfaced of confinement, torture, and killing carried out behind locked doors. Investigations uncovered patterns of repeated violence concealed by status and fear. Admission of guilt followed once protection collapsed, exposing crimes financed through noble fortune. Execution ended the violence, but shock spread across France. A decorated warrior had operated unchecked for years, shielded by hierarchy and intimidation. Power without scrutiny allowed brutality to thrive. Gilles de Rais demonstrates how prestige can disguise cruelty and how authority can suppress intervention when social order values rank over human life. Number 9. Joseph Stalin. Power consolidation defined Joseph Stalin's rise within the Soviet Union. Political rivals disappeared, institutions bent under pressure, and loyalty became mandatory. Forced collectivization reshaped agriculture, triggering widespread famine. Labor camps expanded across remote regions, absorbing prisoners accused of disloyalty or failure. Arrests often arrived at night, leaving families without explanation. Fear governed workplaces, homes, and government offices alike. Propaganda projected unity, while punishment enforced obedience. Industrial expansion moved forward alongside immense human loss. Even high-ranking officials faced sudden removal or execution. Victory during World War II strengthened control but did not reduce repression. Authority relied on constant tension, where uncertainty blocked resistance. After power finally ended, confusion mixed with relief across a population conditioned to silence. Centralized rule sustained through fear transformed society into an apparatus of control rather than a shared civic structure. What happens next wasn't built on violence in the same way. Number 8. Idi Amin. Uganda entered a period of chaos after a military coup elevated Idi Amin to leadership. Rule depended on unpredictability, with violence delivered openly rather than hidden. Soldiers executed perceived opponents without trial, often in public spaces. Entire communities suffered targeted killings based on ethnicity or profession. Bodies appeared in rivers and on roadsides, serving as warnings rather than secrets. Political authority mixed brutality with theatrical behavior, confusing both allies and enemies. Economic collapse followed the expulsions of skilled workers and business owners. International condemnation grew while internal fear intensified. Military defeat eventually forced exile, ending years of terror. The aftermath revealed mass graves and shattered institutions. Amin's reign showed how arbitrary violence destabilizes nations rapidly, replacing governance with intimidation. Power sustained through randomness erodes loyalty, structure, and survival itself. Number 7. Pol Pot. Cambodia changed overnight when the Khmer Rouge seized control in 1975. Cities emptied as populations were forced into rural labor camps. Schools, money, religion, and personal identity vanished under radical ideology. Intelligence became dangerous, and education turned lethal. Survival required silence, obedience, and erasure of individuality. Executions targeted perceived enemies, while starvation and exhaustion claimed countless lives. Families were separated, and trust collapsed within communities. Violence was systematic, not chaotic, driven by a vision of absolute equality enforced through terror. International isolation allowed the situation to escalate unchecked. Military defeat finally ended the regime, revealing mass graves across the countryside. The devastation left scars that continue to shape Cambodian society. Pol Pot demonstrated how ideology combined with unchecked authority can dismantle an entire nation from within, transforming social engineering into large-scale human destruction. Number 6. Attila the Hun. Across Europe, towns reacted to one name with immediate panic. Attila commanded a mobile empire built on speed, intimidation, and relentless pressure. Rather than occupying territory permanently, campaigns focused on destruction, tribute, and submission. Entire regions emptied as populations fled ahead of advancing forces. Diplomacy often followed devastation, with empires paying enormous sums to avoid further raids. Military victories mattered less than reputation, which spread faster than armies. Fear alone forced negotiations, surrender, or abandonment of cities. Leadership rested on maintaining that image through constant conquest and punishment. Even allies feared sudden violence. Death arrived unexpectedly during a wedding celebration, leaving no battlefield defeat behind. The power structure dissolved quickly, showing how terror-based dominance depends on presence and momentum. Attila's impact reshaped late Roman politics, proving that psychological domination can rival occupation as a tool of empire. Number 5. Nero. Culture turned inward. Rome did not collapse under military threat during Nero's time. Instead, attention shifted inward. Art, music, performance, and architectural ambition consumed leadership energy. The city became a stage rather than a system. A catastrophic fire erased entire districts, followed by frantic rebuilding driven more by spectacle than recovery. Public anger searched for targets, and punishment redirected tension rather than solving instability. Daily life changed as neighborhoods vanished and traditions weakened. Political administration faded behind ceremony and personal expression. Governance blurred into performance, leaving institutions hollow. Provinces sensed detachment from the center, loosening allegiance gradually. Authority slipped not through rebellion, but through neglect. Control ended quietly, without decisive confrontation. Nero represents a rare pattern in history. Collapse driven not by conquest or terror, but by leadership absorbed in culture, while structure eroded beneath it. Number 4. King John, failure without vision. England's problems under King John did not stem from ideology or cruelty alone, but from repeated failure. Military campaigns collapsed abroad, draining resources without return. Strategic misjudgments accumulated quickly. Taxation increased to compensate for the loss, deepening resentment across classes. Negotiation gave way to confinement as frustration replaced strategy. Alliances weakened and confidence vanished. Authority became reactive rather than decisive. Opposition was organized not from ambition, but necessity. Concessions followed pressure rather than planning, reshaping governance unwillingly. Power was narrowed through miscalculation rather than revolt. Control lingered, but direction vanished. King John's period reflects collapse through incompetence, a reign defined less by terror than by an inability to sustain success, making authority fragile through repeated strategic failure. Number 3. Hernán Cortés, opportunism over power. No grand invasion force arrived with Cortés. Timing did. Internal rivalry fractured the Aztec world before large-scale conflict began. Strategic alliances formed quickly, reshaping local balance. Disease spreads independently, altering outcomes beyond intention or control. Victories followed circumstance more than strength. Sacred cities fell after pressure mounted internally rather than direct assault alone. Communication across oceans secured protection after actions unfolded, not before. Expansion emerged from improvisation rather than design. Control followed chaos. Cortés illustrates conquest shaped by chance, fragmentation, and opportunism, a reminder that history sometimes turns not on dominance, but on exploiting moments when systems weaken from within. Number 2. Timur, violence as language. Timur's campaigns communicated intent before arrival. Towers constructed from the dead spoke louder than negotiation. Movement mattered more than settlement. Cities learned consequences visually, reducing resistance through memory rather than occupation. Submission preserved life. Defiance erased it. Art flourished selectively, contrasting sharply with annihilation elsewhere. Authority traveled with the individual, not the administration. Expansion relied on fear encoded into the landscape. Once movement stopped, cohesion vanished. No enduring system followed. Timur's power functioned as a message, not governance, proving that violence can operate as language, shaping behavior without permanent rule, yet leaving emptiness once the voice falls silent. Number 1. Qin Shi Huang, obsession with order. Unification under Qin Shi Huang unfolded like a construction rather than a conquest. Systems replaced traditions rapidly, measurements aligned, writing standardized, roads connected regions, walls extended across the terrain, labor reshaped geography at an unprecedented scale. Dissent disappeared under enforcement, not debate. Speed defined transformation. The state functioned like machinery, requiring constant pressure to operate. Once pressure vanished, resistance surged. Yet the framework remained. Qin Shi Huang represents obsession with order, a ruler who treated civilization as an engineering problem, achieving permanence through structure even when authority itself proved temporary. History does not end when a ruler falls or a name fades from memory. The impact lingers in borders changed, cultures broken, and lives shaped by decisions made long ago. Looking back is not about fascination or judgment, but understanding how power behaves when limits disappear. These stories show patterns that repeat whenever fear replaces restraint and ambition outruns responsibility. By facing these darker chapters directly, we gain clarity, not comfort. Because understanding how the past went wrong is one of the few ways to recognize when the same path begins to form again. Now press the like button, share this video, comment below, tell us which one hits you hard, and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching and spending time with us.